This is my GMC dually 98 model 454 motor, and I'm not leaking antifreeze, but I'm going to change this water pump because obviously the bearing is loose, wearing out, and I don't know why it's not leaking antifreeze. Maybe it doesn't have any in there. I'm sure it does though. So I'm going to change the water pump to keep that from going bad while I'm not working. I'll have time to get this out of the way. We're going into winter. This is we're past the halfway point of October here in the St. Louis area, and once we get into November, it's pretty much bad weather for 6 months after that. So I'm going to get this out of the way before we get into winter. I still don't have a camera boom set up over here on this side yet. I got a tripod, but it's not going to be able to see and hear what I'm doing, so I'm going to explain what I'm going to do. First, I'm going to take the belt off with the tension pulley down here, put a wrench in that and loosen up the tension, take the belt off, and see what all I can get to from underneath here. The fan will definitely come off, and I'm going to drain the antifreeze. I'll start draining that first underneath the radiator. I'm sure I'll find a drain plug down there, and then we'll just start getting this thing loose. The hoses need to come off the water pump, and then there's just 4 bolts, 2 on this leg down here on these GM Chevrolet type motors, and then 2 on that side. And never did it on this truck, but just going on memory from when I was a full-time car mechanic back in the 70s and 80s, 90s, along in there. That's the way these water pumps were. And I wasted some time and trouble trying to gain access to the drain plug on this radiator. Can't get the camera on it, and I cannot get to the plug. And according to other YouTube videos, that plug is real fragile and it breaks. This truck is nearly 30 years old. I'm just going to take this water pump off and drain it out there. I'm going to put all this stuff back on. And I got went up to Home Depot and I bought this large pan like the one I use for draining oil in the big truck. I'm going to put this in here and just dump the antifreeze. I'm going to take the water pump off and let the antifreeze fall out of the water pump. And forget this drain plug down here because they put it in a bad spot. They didn't allow access to it. I'm going to take this belt off. I get to show my new tool from Harbor Freight. This flex head, flat, low profile, if you want to call it that, with a flex head on a 3/8, and it's a long handle, long reach, and then the other end's 1/4 inch. And change your ratchet direction here. I'm going to put that in down here in this thing here, and I'm going to push it in there tighter where it don't fall out, and go on ahead and loosen up my tension pulley and pull the belt off. Now, without the belt tension on there, I can really see the fan wiggle. Okay, I'm going to start taking these bolts off the front, take the fan bolts off the water pump pulley here. Since the belt's off, this is going to turn on me, so I'm going to go ahead and just put some spray on it, and I'll stick a screwdriver or something down in between 2 of the bolts that are there and crack each one loose and work my way all the way around like that, and then I'll take them all off once they're loose. Got my screwdriver and my wrench in there in that position, so the wrench is on the right and that nut's already broke loose. going to spin it out a little bit, but not take it off, because I'm going to need it to get the last one off to have the screwdriver pressing against it. Those are all loose now. I can spin them off with my fingers, but I'm going to grab a magnet here, have a magnet handy to catch them, because there's just too many places down there you can lose them, and it'd be too hard to find them. Fan off and carefully leaning up against the radiator. Pulley off. I need two hands maybe. Alternator bracket has to come off. I'm going to start by, I already pulled the air conditioning line and the heater hose off of this thing right here, this keeper, and I'm going to take this tensioner off. There's bolts down there for the alternator bracket that I got to get off. I'm going to try to leave the air conditioner on, because that's also the power steering bracket, and it's a huge bracket, it's a monster. I don't want to take that thing off. I'm going to try to do it from this side by the alternator, so I'm going to take this tensioner off first so I can get to the bolts behind it. I took this bolt out, 16 millimeter, loosened this one up, took this bolt that's holding this wiring harness down, took that out, and I took the alternator bolts loose, but I haven't taken it off yet because I'm not sure if I need to. I'm on this bolt underneath this side here, trying to get to the getting to that bolt down there. So that's how I'm set up on it. That was not a bolt, that was a stud. I couldn't really get an eyeball on it too good. And I don't want to take the stud out, so this bracket is loose now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take the bottom bolt out that I thought I was going to pivot on, and I'm going to undo the hot wire that goes to the battery from the alternator, and pull this whole thing out. I don't know if it'll come out far enough without hitting this shroud or not. I may have to take this idler off, and I might have to take the alternator off. I don't know yet. To get the alternator loose, I took these two main bolts out, this one, and there's one on the top here on this bracket. Took that out, and now I got two pry bars. I sprayed all of this stuff with penetrant, and now I got two pry bars in here. I'm going to lift one and push on the other, one up and one down, and it's moving. I'm going to try to get this alternator out of here without undoing all the wiring. Push it over to the side a little bit so I can get this bracket out of here, hopefully. Got it off of there. Got the alternator flipped around, pushed up here on top of the AC and the heater hose, and get these out of here. Let's see if I can get this bracket out of there now. Sliding it forward, see if I can get that out of there. I'm making progress. I probably should have taken this bolt out that's holding on to this keeper. I didn't take that off, but I got the hoses out of it, and I got the battery wire that goes to the alternator. I got this thing opened up, got that, and this is moving forward now. I got all this stuff. I pushed it back behind that keeper. I don't see anything else in the way. I need two hands to try to get this off of here. I got that kind of secure, I think, and stuck a couple of rags on top of the battery terminal because I didn't unplug the battery. I didn't disconnect the battery, but I should have plenty of room to work now. Wasn't able to get this pulley off. Maybe I can now. And if not, we'll just leave it on there and make sure I remember to put it on there when I put the new water pump on. So now I'm going to go ahead and start taking these hoses loose down here and let this antifreeze start draining out. Before I take those hoses off, I'm going to take an air hose and blow all this loose stuff that I've been breaking loose up here. I'm going to blow it all out of here and then clean out that drain pan before I start draining the antifreeze so I don't have a lot of garbage in it. Got my other hose on top off, and with these gouges in this nipple, it looks like maybe somebody's had this water pump off before. I've had this truck 20 years. It was only 6 years old with 84,000 miles when I bought it. Anyway, there's 2 bolts over here to take the water pump off and 2 on that side, just like it. I don't know that there's much else to put on camera. If I find something else, I'll record it. Otherwise, you just reassemble the same way you took it apart. You got to make sure these gaskets are very, very clean on the block. Water pump will be clean, the new one, but the block has to be very clean. Take a very sharp scraper. Let me show you the kind of scraper I like to use. I take these 1.5 inch putty knives, the thick bladed ones that are stiff, and I sharpen one side of them on the side of a grinding wheel. Well, when they're new, I have to hold it on the front of the grinding wheel just to grind it down, get some metal off of it, and then I sharpen it on the side of the grinding wheel and then dip it in water, and then that's what my favorite scrapers are for cleaning gaskets. I just touch them up on the grinding wheel, sharpen them, and that way I got a nice sharp edge to clean gaskets with. This would definitely be the time to make sure your hoses are in good shape. The bottom radiator hose, although it's 30 years old, I think it's in pretty good shape. It's not 30, 26 years old, whatever. This one here, I have my doubts about. I'm going to, probably going to replace that one. I could not get on that bottom bolt. I'm starting with the hardest one to get to. I could not get to it with a impact, but I got a small breaker bar. This breaker bar here, 3/8 drive. I got that in there with a deep socket and a short extension, and now I got a ratchet, a battery ratchet in there on it, getting it off. Alright, it fell right off of there as soon as I got the last bolt out. I don't know if I can get it out with this stud in here or not, because I don't have much clearance in front with this fan and this pulley, but shouldn't be much more to it. I might, if I got to take this off, then I got to. It'll take a female Torx. I don't know what size. Looks like about 30, 27, 30. I don't know. We're out of there. Have fun cleaning these gaskets. This one you can get to. That one's going to be a little bit harder. If I had the time, and if this truck was something I used a lot, I would go ahead and change this harmonic balancer, because I got rubber missing out of it, and some of it swollen up and oozing out. And the this is how I check for a timing chain on a motor like this. I'm going to try to do it with one hand. I don't know if I can. I got to find a way to mount the camera. But what I do is I grab this wheel with two hands, and I turn it left, I turn it right, and I only turn it far enough until I feel resistance. That's when my chain is tightening up on one side and starting to turn the camshaft. Camshaft is not going to turn easy because of all of those valve springs against it. So, but you can force it to turn by hand and turn the motor, but what you're feeling for is free play between left side and right side. And I got my timing marks right here. And when I did that, I had about an inch of free play left and right. Half an inch is normal. That's good. That's what you'll get with a new chain. 3/4 is probably okay. An inch or a little more than an inch is starting to get to be a little loose. This motor is not real high mileage. It's, I don't know, 150 something, 160,000, but still high enough. It's probably time for a timing chain. And just the years is why this rubber is going bad coming out of this water pump. I mean this balance pulley. I got this water pump, this new one, ready to go back on there. I had to switch this nipple over and this plug, and I also had to change my studs, pull the studs out of the old one, put them on here. What I got to do is, when I do that, for those that don't know, I'll lock two of these together. I'll put a wrench on the bottom one and an impact on the top one, or you can do it with two wrenches. But if you use an open-end wrench, you can get it back off, but then you run a risk of rounding the corners on the nut. A boxed-end wrench, if you got enough room underneath, it's better to use a boxed-end wrench, you know, the round end. Have it underneath there, and then you use that to hold this, if you can get away with doing it that way. You take your impact and tighten this top nut down on top of it, or another wrench. And then once they're tightened together, then you can take your bottom wrench and start wrenching this back out. You lift it up, turn it, drop your wrench down, turn the wrench, lift it up, turn it. Do that, start working these back out of there, or use your impact, just a little 3/8 drive impact, and draw this back out. Screw it into the other one, put your wrench under it, screw into the other one, and then you hold the bottom one, and then take the top one off with the impact. I put my pulley back on there and just snug down with my fingers one nut on there, because I don't have room to get the pulley on there once the water pump is installed. I'm going to put my gaskets on the bolts. Put my bolts in there, put the gaskets on, and sorry about this. This thing is rolling all over the place and it doesn't want to sit here. I got all 4 bolts started, got my gaskets are in place, and now I'm going to try to get this hose. I did put a new hose on here. I'm going to try to get this thing worked into position before I tighten any bolts down. Now that I got them started, I can slide this thing back out a little bit and work that hose into position. May have to cut some of it off. This bearing is a little bit loose and spins a little bit too freely and makes a little bit of noise. I was going to replace it, put a new bearing in it, but they molded the plastic around the bearing where you can't knock the bearing out without breaking the bearing or the plastic. So I just popped the seal out. I'm going to put some grease in it. And now I got a visitor. I got to get off the camera. I got it all greased up. I didn't show how to get that seal off of there. You just take a little seal pick like this or this, and just get underneath the outer edge of it and pluck it out, and then just press it back in tight. Got this thing installed. The bearing still has a little bit of play, but it's a lot quieter and smoother running now with the new grease in it. Before I put the alternator back in, these little bushings in here, I gotta tap those back with a hammer, or the alternator's not gonna go in. I gotta knock those back out this way a little bit, both of them. Well, I ran out of parts to put on. I think that's a good thing. I remember my younger years, I had parts left over sometimes. When you put the belt on, make sure you double, triple check. Make sure that your belts are lined up in the pulleys on every pulley that has grooves on it. And make sure you don't have the back side, the smooth side of the belt, against any grooves. Those only go against the smooth pulleys. And in this case, I think we only got two smooth. The fan pulley is going to be smooth. No ridges on that. No grooves. And the idler. Okay, we're done, other than I got to put antifreeze in it. And then I got to burp the antifreeze out. Once the antifreeze is in there, I got to wait till it settles and let all the air out of it and keep filling it up and adding to it until it's done and getting all the air out of it. Well, it's running good. Fan is tight now. I don't hear any noises from the belt or the pulleys like I did before. Alright, thanks for watching.